Miss Frances Fox, and I'm 1 minute late because I was on X looking at all the news about the sex trafficking. Okay, today we're going to talk about sex, and I did get the photographs of Saint Teresa de Avila and her description of spiritual ecstasy. Mind you, all of you have seen this statue before. Many of you have read her description in her autobiography, in her own words, of her spiritual ecstasy. She started a movement of Carmelite nuns that were barefoot. Well, it turns out that if you are barefoot, you pick up a lot more sexual energy because sexual energy comes from the earth, which is why ETs, you never hear about a male ET, a female ET. You never hear about an alien raping people because they don't, because they don't have sexuality. But it's just now I'm connecting the dots that humans, our sexuality comes from the earth element. So if you run around barefoot, you're going to pick up a lot more sexual energy. And if you can have sex with your feet on the ground, and I'm not going to go into any descriptions, it's going to be much more powerful. But she started an order of barefoot nuns, which will make you laugh once I read what I'm going to read from her autobiography. But first, let me go ahead and show you the pictures of her. This is her face in spiritual ecstasy. Got it? Okay. And this is the statue of her in spiritual ecstasy. I'm going to read now what she wrote. And this is not pornography. This is from a nun. And she's talking about spiritual ecstasy. She's not talking about sex. But you know what? Yes, she is. So I'm going to read you the introduction. The ecstasy was a mystical experience of the great Spanish Carmelite reformer, Teresa of Avila, a transverberation that pierced her heart with the fiery arrow of divine love. Okay? Okay, so then now she described her ecstasy in these words. Remember, I told you, spiritual ecstasy and orgasm is the same thing. But if you don't believe me, listen to Saint Teresa. This is her words of that are describing this statue and her experiences with spiritual ecstasy. Beside me, on the left hand, appeared an angel in bodily form, such as I am not in the habit of seeing except very rarely. Though I often have visions of angels, I do not see them. But it was our Lord's will that I should see this angel in the following way. He was not tall but short and very beautiful, and his face was so aflame that he appeared to be one of the highest ranking of angels who seemed to be all on fire. They must be the kind called cherubim, but they do not tell me their names. Ah, so she had this experience more than once. Okay. Continuing in her words, I know very well that there is a great difference between some angels and others, and between those and others still, but I could not possibly explain it. And here we go. Continuing in St. Teresa's words, in his hand I saw a great golden spear, and at the iron tip there appeared to be a point of fire. This he plunged into my heart several times so that it penetrated to my entrails. That's into your stomach. Continuing with her words, when he pulled it out, I felt that he took them with it and left me utterly consumed by the great love of God. The pain was so severe that it made me utter several moans. The sweetness caused by this intense pain is so extreme that one cannot possibly wish it to cease, nor is it one's soul then content with anything but God. This is not a physical but a spiritual pain, though the body has some share in it, even a considerable share. So gentle is this wooing which takes place between God and the soul that if anyone thinks I'm lying, I pray God in his goodness to grant him some experience of it. That is Saint Teresa describing her spiritual ecstasy which is orgasm, but which we have not identified as orgasm, to the point where I know all of you have seen her face and that particular statue by Bertolini, I believe the name is. And now that you have this information, you'll look at it and you'll go, oh my God, but why didn't I ever see that? And then if you read what I just read, you'll go, oh my God, and why didn't millions of people ever see that? Apparently, we humans have some veils over our eyes, and there's so much that's actually there that we don't see, and so much that we don't connect the dots with. And again, we're talking about sex. We don't know enough about it. And repeating yesterday podcast, sex, the definition, it means to cut and to divide. Nobody knows that either. So it's no wonder that we have a mess with sex. And then going to the whole alien issue, they're neither male or female, and nobody seems to notice that. Why haven't they noticed that? The first thing, and I know we were into the trans thing, etc., so people's sexuality is getting a little bit iffy, but we've been seeing aliens since the planet started, and nobody comments on that. Again, this veil that comes down, that we see something that should be triggering something in us, and it's not triggering anything. So when you talk about the aliens, they come and they experiment on people. You've never heard of an alien raping anybody. Never. Apparently it doesn't happen. Maybe they don't have the apparatus to do it. I don't know, but they don't. So once you get off planet, there's no sex. Elon Musk, hello. No sex. And I know that our sexuality, the energy mainly comes from Earth. So what are we going to do about reproducing ourselves on Mars? Well, we can come back to Earth to have sex and then go back to Mars to live. It's funny to me because it's such an important subject. Sex could destroy everybody's life, and it takes over everybody's life when they're in the process of choosing a sexual partner, or if they get tired of the sexual partner. All the music that we listen to, practically every single song, it doesn't matter what country, is about yearning for somebody of the opposite sex. It's not about our children, and it's not about our country. Now, yes, there's songs about our children in our country, but very few. 95% of them are about sex, and then not getting enough, or not getting it from the person that you want, or wanting to be with that person, and we know that they want to do it. They want to be with that person because of sex. And so here we come to the end of this cycle on the planet, and we're finally going to deal with the perverted part of sex, the whole sex trafficking, child trafficking, and then we have the pornography that is not considered perverted or whatever, but is definitely an indicator that something is very wrong, that people are needing it so badly and are finding it satisfactory, more satisfactory than actually having sex with a very real live human being. So what does sex have to do with fertility? We understand that countries are just basically going to peter out because the population's not reproducing themselves. Well, but to reproduce yourself, you have to have sex. Well, no, you can have the in vitro fertilization. I'll talk about that in a minute, because what happens to the spirits of those kids is really, really, really interesting. I need to do a bigger study on that. The thing is, it's a little bit difficult because the information is so off the wall that I think people are going to have a hard time accepting it. So sex, perversion, sex abuse, aliens, what's the connection? Aliens don't have sex, so what's the connection? And I did a video on this, and very few people liked it. They saw it, but I think they probably didn't get it. But if we have looked for I don't know how old that statue is, 400, 600 years, St. Teresa of Avila, and nobody saw that she was in the middle of an orgasm, then I can understand why people would not have understood or been able to take in what I said in the video and the connection between aliens and sex. So here I'm going to give it again. So, planet Earth has been governed by some laws put there by the Galactic Federation. I really never believed in them until they started to show up in my chats. Okay, so everybody talks about them that is very into spirituality at a higher level, and spirituality having to do with planet Earth. So anyway, there's rules. There were rules and regulations with planet Earth, and apparently planet Earth was very protected, and not just anybody from another galaxy or planet could come in. And if you came in, you had to go through the reincarnation cycle. You had to have several past lives under your belt, and then you would be allowed in to function whatever it is that you were planning to function as. And okay, so other than that, there were people, magicians, that knew how to do ceremonies to where they would open portals and then ETs would slip in. And I've told you about many years ago asking my masters to help me to understand this black magic stuff. And I was dealing with an autistic kid, and I had the parents in my office. I hope I don't lose my train of thought of what I was talking about. And all of a sudden, this ET showed up and said, "This one's ours." And what do you mean, this one is ours? This one's ours. Don't bother. And I stopped and I went, okay. And I said to the parents who were there in the office with me, I said, listen, I don't even believe any of this stuff, but I have to tell you, which is what I always do. This is what happened, right? This is what's happening right now in front of you. You're not seeing it, but it's happening. And I'm being told by an AT that your son belongs to them and that I'm not to intervene. And I said, I don't know enough about this, and I'm not going to intervene because I have no idea what's going to happen to your son or to me or to us. And they said, well, what do we do? And I said, I have no idea. This was in the 90s. So after that, I asked my masters, I said, I need to get the dolphins, actually. I need to understand this. And they explained to me about the thing with the black magic, and they do ceremonies and they open portals. And they petition for help for this black magic to work. And what comes in through the portal is an ET who now has permission to come into the planet, is able to enter the planet. Now, today, all those rules are gone. The ETs can come in. They don't even need tourist visas. They just, like the southern border, they just walk in, fly in, drop in, who knows. And I understood that. That was fine. I got it. I get it. And then we come to years later, and I'm taking care of people, and particularly kids. And I am seeing that the left side of their head has a portal, which is called the Rudra. And I'm going to write it here, Rudra, the Rudra portal. And that is a portal. That's the one we use to come into the planet, our spirit. We came into the planet and then we developed a physical body. You don't have to believe any of this stuff, but I have to tell you what I have. And then you just let it sit there, and then eventually you might find more information. It'll fit in, whatever, like pieces of a puzzle. So this portal, which is how we entered planet Earth, and we entered into the physical dimension, and we entered into our physical body, so that we could have a life on planet Earth. That portal, when it opens prematurely, that Rudra portal, when it's opened prematurely, anything can come in. And anything can come into the individual that it opens on. So what I found is that all autistic kids have that portal open. And everybody that's like an alcoholic, a drug addict, has that portal open. And coming in through that portal are the worst spirits. But the particularly powerful spirits that come in through that portal are the ones that come in due to sexual abuse, issues of sexuality, which might be somebody that thinks that they should have been born into a male body or a female body, they weren't born in the right body, or somebody that has an awful lot of shame about sex. That portal gets broken, and the spirits that come in are alien. One of the few ways that they could come into the planet under the rules and the laws that existed before that are now thrown out the window. So, sexual abuse, which is the number one way of opening that portal prematurely and poorly, was the opportunity for ETs to come and invade planet Earth and invade individuals. They would come in and through there, and then they would go down to the second energy center, which is 2 inches below your belly button. So it was like a passport or like a ticket. You want to come into planet Earth. You don't want to come in through the reincarnational cycle. It's too long. It's too tedious. You don't want to have to do all that stuff. So you just find somebody where the portal is broken, which is mainly through sexual abuse, but not just. You can have a blow, a concussion, whatever. And these spirits, the incubus and succubus, come in, and then they are in the second chakra. So for them to be able to come in mass, they would have to have a lot of people either falling off tables or falling off or having bad accidents, banging up their head, or having a lot of people being sexually abused, which happens so much, such a significant percentage of the population. You've got a highway there for aliens. So, and the more emotion that they can get people to be caught up with, the better. The wider the portal, the better. So the whole thing with sexual abuse is promoted, and I don't know if it still is or what we're experiencing is just as a continuation of whatever, by aliens that wanted an easy way to enter planet Earth and to be able to have a body to function in, because they would come in to the body via that portal. So I did a video on that, and I don't think that people really got it, because there's too big a gap having to do with information. In the first place, aliens, not sure we believe in them. Galactic Federation, we don't believe in that. Okay, a portal, what the hell is that? So it's just too much to ask for people to really accept it, but at least you have the information. At least you have the information. But again, the Catholic Church knows that those kinds of spirits, the incubus and succubus, are the worst ones, and they're the ones that create perversion in people really, really bad, like what we're reading now, having to do with the music industry and the person that they just took down, and all the others that may or may not come down in this Revelations. So the whole sex thing is heavily managed, manipulated, damaged by aliens, more so than by human beings. And we've never understood that. So we've never been able to get to the root cause. We've never understood that we have a natural opening on the left side of our head, but that if it opens prematurely, it opens unnaturally, then you have beings that come in and energies that come in that completely destroy your life. No, I'm not saying that gay people are gay because of ET influence. You're associating gay people with perversion. And I'm not making that association at all. On the contrary, if you listen to the podcast from yesterday, what I said about people that were gay and bi is that they are helping in a process of human evolution to where we're erasing the line between male and female, which is what we have to do for us, each individual, to be complete with male and female energy inside of them. So no, I did not say that. So the whole issue with sex, are we ever going to be able to get back on track? I'm not sure that there's enough time left in this cycle for that to happen. I'm not sure. What I can tell you is that portal is not difficult to close. Well, you don't even know that it exists, so how can you close it? You can't. And that's been a big issue. Even the people that know about chakras don't know about that portal. It's kind of esoteric. People don't know what to do with it. You should look it up on the internet. I'm not sure how much you can find in English. Um, but it would be important that you know about that portal if you have somebody that has addictions. And you need to know that cell phones and Wi Fi prematurely open that portal. So you have millions of people that are having to deal with spirit influences that before it would have had to have been a question of sexual abuse or a big blow to the head or whatever. And they're having to deal with that level of spirits because of the quantity of radiation of those frequencies that blow open that portal. So I would say that yes, sexual abuse, more than drugs and alcohol, opens up a big portal from a mass invasion, which is what we've had. What percentage of people have normal sex lives? And not normal sex lives could include simply not having sex. Obviously, people are not having sex because we're not reproducing ourselves. And all you have to do is look up the sale of condoms. And I think that if somebody more skilled than me went and looked up the sale of condoms, which by the way were very low in Japan 10 years ago when I wrote a book called Sex, the Path to God, because I knew the connection between orgasm and spiritual ecstasy, the one of the countries that had dropped the most having to do with condoms was Japan. Japan is the one of the countries that's the most wired with, which means radiation. In Japan, you have, before many other countries, people that are simply asexual, no sex at all. So the whole issue of sex needs to be looked at. The relationship between frequencies and sexual issues needs to be looked at which time people are going to look at their cell phone and go, wow, the Israelis blew up all these people via radiating devices that we carry. Those were beepers. It doesn't matter. You can do that with a cell phone. What is this radiation doing to my private parts? And what is this radiation doing to my unborn child? Because when you text, you don't text up in the air and you don't text 3 feet in front of you or to the side. You text with your arms kind of clasped to your side, and your cell phone is inches away from where you are carrying a child. So the whole issue of sex, what's going on with it, is very important that we get to root cause and we don't just look at the symptoms. Infertility. Okay, the sperm need to be a certain temperature to become operational. And cell phones raise temperature. Cell phones boil the water in our cells. They don't boil it to the point of boiling, but they make it warmer, and therefore the sperm, it does not have an environment where it can thrive and it can help the reproduction process. So the fact that we are so dumb on the subject means that we have a lot of veils over our eyes that are not just put there by the Catholic Church, who has a saint who it has proven to us that spiritual ecstasy is orgasm. And once you look at the picture, I'm going to put it up again. You're not going to argue. I've never had anybody argue with me. I've never had anybody say, Francis, how can you say that? Just looking at that little angel with his piercing arrow and then listening to her description. So I think we need to be more thoughtful. I think we need to be more awake and aware. And it's a little bit late, but we should give it the old college try, being at that it appears that the United States is also one of the countries that's going to go down the tubes having to do with the birth rate. And it doesn't take that many years. I don't remember. Is it 15 years, which is a generation? So one generation is 15 years. So in one generation, another story about sex. I had a mother call me several years ago. She said, I have to tell you something I don't want you to tell anybody. She did give me permission after a couple of weeks. She said, you can say this story generically, but not about me. Well, obviously, I would have never said it about her anyway. But here's the story. She's got a son. He's got a girlfriend. A lot of times they sleep at each other's homes together, the girlfriend, boyfriend. They've never had sex. 17, 18 years old. Never had sex. To a person like me, that's like shocking. They're not gay. They never had sex. Their girlfriend, boyfriend, that's it. They intend on at some point when they graduate, get married. She couldn't get it. This really rattled her cage. She couldn't get it. She told me, and I was already dealing with the issue of sex. I had spent months writing about the great turnoff, having to do with sex, the fact that people were turned off, what was going on. And I was trying to get people to do what Elon Musk's trying to do. He wants them to have more babies. I was trying to get people to have more sex or to get this figured out. And I didn't even get into the whole thing of population collapse and countries collapsing. So I said to her, listen, I think there's something going on with kids and sex. So I don't. And she said, well, what can I do? I said, I have no idea other than to do a mantra. I have no idea. And then she got back to me and she had spoken to a couple of other mothers and they had the same issue with their kids. They were teenagers, not 14, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19. They had a mate and there was no sex. And this would have been probably 15 years ago, which is a whole generation. So we don't know who's not having sex, but we do know who's not having sex because birth rate is down. And when they talk about all this stuff with the trans and the surgeries, and they never talk about sex. They talk about the body and whether it's male or female and the apparatuses that you should have if you're male or female. They never talk about sex. Now, okay, I'm older. Okay, this mother that called me was not my age, but she was not a teenager. So people that are older, it's like, if you talk about having somebody you're in love with and you lay in bed with them the entire night and you're not having sex, it's a shocker. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Well, then they don't like each other. Well, yeah, they do. People like me, I don't get it. There's a spark, there's something missing there. And sex comes from the second energy center, which is the sacral chakra. Sacral, sacred. It's also where manifestation is and creativity. What I notice in people in creative fields, media, TV, very low sex drive because they use all the energy from that center for their creativity, their producers or whatever. So that's another angle, but there's not that many people that are producers, so that's not the issue. But it is an issue. If you get really creative and you get in real creative mode, your sex drive will go down because both of those energies are in that same energy center and there's only 100% of the energy. So what we haven't known about our system that is non-physical, but that is our assemblage of bodies, is part of our physical body. Our physical body is only a bag of bones with zero life when you pull out the energy bodies, which is what happens when you die, and also when you have a coma. Okay. And it's also what lives on. Your energy bodies live on. Your physical doesn't. Why are we paying so much attention to our physical body? We lost our way. We lost our way. Chakras? Oh no, I'm not into that new age. It's not a new age stuff. It's a name for energy centers that channel and move the energy of everything in your life. Yeah, I don't. Okay. You need to get up to speed having to do with the chakras, and I'll tell you why. We have lost total confidence in our medical system. But there's a lot you can do. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the doctor. If you get sick, you need to go to the doctor. Okay, that's it. I just said it. But if you get sick, the first thing you need to find out is which organ is sick. Okay. And then you go to the internet and you look up which energy center chakra handles and channels the energy to that particular organ. And then you start looking at many websites having to do with that energy center, how it gets broken, what is good for it, what aromatherapy is good for it, what herbs is good for it, what homeopathy, what types of massages are good for it. And you start to take care of yourself at the level at which you got sick, which is not the physical body. Physical body is, when you get sick in the physical body, you've been sick way, way, way before. So if you can figure out, no, if you get sick, I mean, a lot of people have diabetes and they don't know it's their pancreas. Now, to me, that's like, I can't believe this. I can't. They don't know what organ it is that's sick. So you look up diabetes, you find out it's a pancreas, you figure out what the pancreas is about, and then you go to Chinese medicine or Ayurveda and you find out the issues that those particular organs deal with. And then you will know that if you have a disease in that organ, you have these issues. But those issues are the things are causal in why that organ got sick and why you had to go to the doctor. So that kind of puts you at the head of the train in terms of knowing why you got sick. There's no big mystery anymore. And that is very important. This whole big mystery and then turning yourself over to somebody who doesn't know how you got sick, that needs to stop. So I have spoken for 31 minutes. So we're going to take 5 minutes. And I promise you that the next podcast, I won't talk about sex. How's that? Let's go ahead and do a mantra. I think there was something else that I wanted to say. The whole thing with the children that are being created through in vitro and has so many interesting ramifications having to do with the spirit of the person, the product of that process, that I think I'm going to do a little bit of investigation, and I think I'm going to do a podcast on that. And the first thing I can say is that I took care of 2 different families that had, coincidentally, they both had twins through in vitro. And what I found for both of them was that the spirits, you're supposed to have a body and a spirit attached to it. And the whole zombie issue is when another spirit comes and uses your body. Okay. These twins, in vitro twins, both sets, 2 different families, don't know each other. The spirits of both of them would interchange. In other words, you were dealing with this person's body, but it was a spirit from the other person that was in this body that you're dealing with. That's a little bit of a problem because we're supposed to be units, an assemblage of bodies and a unit. And then when that unit gets upset, when you have an ET that can come in or a spirit that comes in and takes over because your spirit is disassociated. But with all these kids that are being born in vitro and all these things that are being done, they're creating additional issues that we're not even familiar with and that we don't know that's happening. You're not supposed to have a spirit that is systematically leaving its body because it creates a tremendous weakness in the physical body of that child, that person. It's like a boundary that was always there is just, it doesn't exist for them. Very interesting. I don't know what the ultimate ramifications of that would be, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do in vitro, but I think we should study the consequences having to do with the spirit, which is the astral body of those children, to see if there's something that maybe we can help them with, because I can guarantee you that there are issues. And the thing that I can compare it to is people that do channeling. And I've always known from day one, channeling is not good for the person. There are people that channel Jesus Christ and the Virgin and Saint who knows, Gabriel and whatever, or they channel a particular ET. What does that mean? They leave their physical body, their spirit, and the other spirit comes in, like a zombie would come in, except it is invited in, it comes in, and the person's spirit just kind of hangs out to the side. But what happens, what was explained to me, and I know that that is the case because I've witnessed it, is that the person that is doing that channeling, especially if they do it a lot, and some people that do it a lot, they do it for a living, um, they're not healthy. Like, let's say they're coming to an event, somebody needs to drive them to the event. They can't drive themselves. They can't handle their life. They need a lot of help handling their life because their spirit is not enfolded, doesn't stay with the assemblage of bodies. It's hopping in and out, hopping in and out. And when they say they're channeling Jesus Christ, the Virgin Mary, it's not true, because in terms of ethics, the good spirits never go inside the assemblage of bodies of a person. It's not ethical. They just don't do it. There are no exceptions. They don't do it. And I've told you the story before of when I did that to help out a client of mine, and I helped tremendously. I think I'll take the time and repeat it in case you haven't heard it, and I'll make it very short. The person was with one foot in a hospital, and I was asked what was going on, and I said, "There's a spirit that's really out to get this individual." And yes, he was very disassociated. He had done a lot of drugs and whatever. And they said, "Well, can you help him?" And I said, I have no idea. And then I just came to me. I said, "Yeah, I can help him." And what I did was my spirit went inside his physical body, at which time the attacking spirit couldn't do anything to him. The attacking spirit was trying to take over, and he couldn't because I was there. And the person was able to get through that particular crisis, and then everything was fine. Everybody was very grateful. And it wasn't until later that I found out and understood, you're not supposed to do that. Yes, I achieved something good. You're not supposed to do that. It was not good for me. It was not good for me. I wasn't supposed to do that. And that's what channeling is. Except in this case, I was just helping a person to survive a particular crisis. In channeling, the person sits there and then they give out this information, most of which is accurate. But the important stuff isn't. And those spirits are very savvy, much more than we are. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a mantra and finish this up. And again, I promise I'm not going to talk about sex the next time, but you do need to enjoy that photograph of St. Teresa and her autobiography. You don't have to read the whole thing. Just ask for her description of spiritual ecstasy. I was going to say you laugh all the way to the bank. No, you're not going to laugh all the way to the bank, but you're going to start to question, what is the matter with us that we can't see something that's so obvious? What is the matter with us? Okay, we are veiled big time. Okay, so here we go. The book that I wrote is called Sex, the Path to God. It's only in Spanish. When you have an abortion, does this facilitate an ET? No, it doesn't. There are, Dorian is saying that there's a religion called 21 Divisions in the Dominican Republic where people get mounted by saints and elevated spirits and they work under God. Yes, in Spanish and Cuban, that's called Se te montó un santo, which means a saint jumped on you. That is a spirit. And then supposedly you turn into a saint, which is not the case. And no, it's not good. But here's the thing. It's really easy for you to be able to tell. Watch the person and find out about their life. If there's an event, how did they get to the event? Did they drive themselves? Are they decently dressed? What they look usually is bedraggled. Bedraggled. Like after you've had a long night and you had a lot to drink, or you just got out of surgery, you just look bedraggled. Obviously, that's not good. And if you do that systematically, it's got a big impact on your life. So yes, a lot of people do the channeling. And a lot of times, again, I find it cute. In Spanish, it's Se te montó un santo. A saint mounted you, like on a horse, and you're the horse. It's not a saint. It's not good. And again, look at the lives of the people that do it, and it's very simple. Okay, let's do the third eye one, which is the one about being afraid to be a master. Okay, that is the one, and I'm not going to bother looking. Okay, this is the mantra. Why this mantra? Because the dolphins told me that the reason we haven't used our superpowers, the reason we don't see everything is because we're afraid to know everything and to be a master. We're afraid of it. And the main reason we're afraid is because we're afraid we're going to misuse the power. Can you believe that? I don't know if that's it. I trust the dolphins, but they say that we're afraid. We're afraid to misuse it. And we are going to do the Fox mantra music for the upper chakras, which is this one. Okay, we're going to do just 5 minutes because I talked an awful long time. Okay, that's it. Finish for today. And please pay attention to how much you relax when you do the mantras. Because whenever you have a crisis, you can go to our YouTube page, Francis Fox Reveals, and choose from the Mantrista playlist music that can help to settle you down so that you don't have an emotional overlay in terms of your consciousness, which makes whatever problem you're having much more difficult to handle in an intelligent, thoughtful way. Okay? Love you a lot. Thank you. Bye. Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I'm a trained remote viewer. I am actually trained and practiced and studied in all the psychic skills, which all of you have, but they're in your energy bodies. And if you deny the part of you that's spiritual and energetic, then you don't have access to the parts of you that give you these skills, which include superpowers. I was part of a secret program. Now that all this information is coming out about sex trafficking, we're getting closer to where perhaps the information about these secret government programs, what they were about. And one of the reasons why I say it's associated with this information about sex trafficking is because I believe a lot of the victims of these mind control programs were sex trafficked like I was. And the deepest wound that you can do to a human is sexual abuse. And so it was a tool that was used to wound us, which made us even better mind control victims. What does it have to do with what's going on today? So I'm going to bet that most of you people don't know the definition of the word sex. The definition of the word sex is to cut and to divide. It's in the dictionary. I did not make that up. It's not a new definition. It's been the definition forever. And yet, that's what sex has done. We need to kind of ignore what's happening lately with the transgenders and the rest of that. From before that, the world was divided in two. According to the Bible, man, a human, was born, delivered, came to the earth, and supposedly God felt that the human was lonely. Sounds like a story to me. And then God created from this human a separate human that was a female. So we came into the planet whole. I don't believe the storyline about the fact that we were lonely. We were cut, we were divided, and then we had sex. We had male, female. And we've been trawling on through centuries, male, female. And if you could just imagine a circle, at the top is where we were when we separated from God. Human, no sex. Cut. We got female, male, female. We're trawling on down the cycles on planet Earth. We're at the bottom and we're on our way back to union with God. Guess what? We can't have a union with God unless we're complete. And complete doesn't mean that we're virgins or innocent or wonderful people or good people. This good and bad people is honestly, you really need to get updated on that because it's setting us all back. We have to be one complete unit before we can get back with God. In order to do that, we have to erase the line of sexuality. And I wrote a book about that together with Veronica del Castillo, and you know her sister, she's famous in Mexican in the movies. I forget her first name. And with Cecile Cachedorian. And my part was this that I'm telling you right now, with the definition of sex and what it is that happened and the process that we are in, which is a return to God. What does sex have to do with God? And this is because of what's going on in the news. Okay, and then I'll get back to my personal reaction to the news as a person that was sex trafficked. The ultimate goal of sex is orgasm. Okay, I don't know why that makes people uncomfortable to talk about that, but orgasm is a union of male and female energies. In energies, when you unify a male flow of energy and a female flow of energy, according to my electrician, who's just a very grounded and landed person, you get electricity. Male, female, you get electricity. There's one cable that's male, one cable that's female, you get electricity. When you get a male and a female and they have sex, you get a type of electricity, which is orgasm, which is you touch God for just a minute, but you still touch God. And it's such a phenomenal feeling that people yearn for it, particularly men. And I'm not going to go into my thoughts on why females are not quite so obsessed with sex, which really means they're obsessed with orgasm. So we have to become one within ourselves, at which time we're going to be like when you want to have electricity and you have the male, which I think is blue, and the female, which is red, the two electrical lines, you put them together and you get electricity. We have to be able to do that within ourselves. Okay, so that's what's going on in terms of human evolution. What does that have to do with what's going on today with the pornography and the sexual abuse and the perversions in sexuality? Now, first, let's go back. The sex is a line that divides male and female, which God did. Once we started to get people that were gay, they crossed the line. And then you got people that were bisexual and they went back and forth across the line. So the line got very blurry, which is actually a very good thing having to do with human evolution. It is not good for society. It is not comfortable for people that are older, particularly. It's not comfortable. This isn't the way it was. Yeah, but the was is not going to be very much longer. So, and then we have the whole trans thing, and I have to ask the dolphins about that, because what I notice is that there's an awful lot having to do with that whole trans, and that it doesn't have anything to do with sex. It has to do with your body looking like the opposite sex, but those people never talk about sex. And actually, the people that talk the most about sex aren't really getting any. They're not having any. They're not getting the orgasm. But I don't know what there is about that, but I will ask the dolphins and I will share with him. One of the best articles I ever wrote was about couples and sex and the different attitudes that men have about sex compared to women. It's on my website, francisfox.com. Just look up dolphins on sex. And I remember I had an employee I had just hired. I was very happy with her. And she read the article. We were doing, I don't know, whatever. The next day she came and she said, you know what, I'm leaving. And I said, oh, what happened? She says, I'm going back to New York. And she had come to Miami because she had broken up with a boyfriend. I think he was unfaithful. And she said, I read that article and I understand now. I get it. I get it. I need to forgive him. And she left. It's a very powerful article. The dolphins make a lot of sense. So you might want to read it. So we are here at a time in which there is obviously something really big going on in sex, because the whole thing with sex trafficking is about sex. The whole perversion is about sex, sexual perverts, and they're killing people in perverted ways. The whole thing with pornography is about sex. So it's all about orgasm, because the goal of sex is orgasm. And like I tell people, you know, when they have a relationship and they really like the guy, whatever. And I said, well, but have you had sex? No, not for a long time. But I said, well, you know that being a couple is about sex. Now, once you get older, and you can still stay functional, older, but that's not what's promoted. Okay, whatever. And I say to them, the only reason for two people to get together and be a couple is sex. If not, it's your brother, and it's a different relationship. And a lot of women don't get that. The men get it, but the women don't get it. So what is this whole thing with orgasm? Orgasm is ecstasy. It's human ecstasy. And if you want proof, you look up Santa Teresa de Avila, and a very famous sculpture called Bartolini, I believe his name was. He did a sculpture of her, and she did an autobiography. In the sculpture, she is obviously moaning in the pleasure of sex, but what she has next to her is an angel with a lance. And she describes it in her autobiography. It's actually embarrassing to think that nobody noticed this before, because when I show it to people, they go, oh my God, she's talking about sex in her autobiography. Saint Teresa. Saint Teresa. Okay, why couldn't we say that she was having, by the way, she says spiritual orgasm. That's what spiritual orgasm is. Spiritual ecstasy, excuse me, which means it's orgasm. Okay, so what's the problem here? The face of, in the Western world, of this cycle of Pisces was Jesus Christ. He didn't have sex. Okay. No orgasm? No spiritual ecstasy? Just plain hard work? Turn the other cheek? So now I'm going to do a joke. So years ago I said, I want you to, in your head, line up a Buddhist monk, a priest, a rabbi, and a pastor. Who is it that has the smile on their face? Genuine pleasure. Not the rabbi, not the pastor, not the priest, the Buddhist monks. Why? Do they have sex? If they get high enough in hierarchy, they do, by the way. The only reason they don't have sex has to do with family, because it is felt that if they have family, a wife, girlfriend, whatever, they won't be able to dedicate themselves to the Buddhist path the way they do when they're monks. But it's not because sex is bad. When they get high enough in rank, they're allowed to have a couple. I had a high enough ranking Buddhist monk that wanted to have a relationship with me. Very elegant, very whatever, but not my style, not anything that I would want. But they don't have anything against sex. But the monks don't have sex because it deviates their attention, and but not the sex that deviates them, but the family. What do? They have exercises that they do that run the energies through their body and accomplish that spiritual ecstasy without having to have the partner, because inside of us we have male energies running through our body and female energies. Our right leg is male energy, our left leg is female. They unite at the first chakra. They go back and forth like that symbol of medicine, caduceus. I don't remember how it's pronounced. So everything today is about sex, but we just left an era. We haven't left. We're leaving an era in which the top dog, and I love Jesus, so don't anybody question that, because then I'm going to start questioning you about your life. I'm going to question you as whether you spend your whole life finger pointing at other people because of that book that Jesus Christ never even saw, because it was written 300 years after he left. So don't you be questioning me and my relationship with Jesus Christ, because mine is closer than yours, and I live more like Jesus Christ than practically any of the people that are there waving the book around and pointing fingers. Jesus never pointed fingers. You see a finger pointing Christian, Jesus would be really unhappy with that. Why are they pointing their finger? Why aren't they going and being compassionate with that person that obviously has got a problem that they're pointing the finger at? Give me a break. And I don't really care if this distresses people. So the face of the era that we're leaving, no spiritual ecstasy. And then we enter and we have a lot of people that are free sex, free love, whatever, which got truncated in the 60s. Because you see, society cannot survive if we live the way the dolphins say that we should live. The dolphins say that sex is like physical love, and that there's really no reason to restrict it. When they told me that, I said, you know what? I'm not putting this out, because I'm going to get crucified. I did put it out. And everybody gets uncomfortable, but they don't question it. See, they get uncomfortable, but they don't question it. I get uncomfortable. I'm rather conservative in the way I live. But that's the truth. Why are we restricting? Why are we restricting it? Because the society that we have set up does not allow for a free flow of love. Doesn't do it. Much less physical love. It doesn't allow for sensuality, which is really sensuality is like when you want to just touch somebody and there's love coming from your hand to that person, you're actually giving them healing. No, 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 no. You can do that with a small baby. If it gets a little bit bigger, you got a problem, like Biden, who is a Scorpio, and Scorpios are very sensuous. And he touches. I don't know if he does something beyond, maybe he does, but he's a Scorpio. So there is kind of like an explanation for that. And maybe there's more. And maybe the Scorpio took him into dark places. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, his astrological sign kind of explains it. So we're in a time in which what is dominating the news all has to do with sex. Now, how many love songs do you know that are not about your mate, a couple, a woman that you want, a man that you want? Very few. Now we have several about Trump. Okay, I like it, but how many? Very little. So it's a really big, big theme in human life that has gotten totally distorted. Now, how did it get totally distorted? I'll tell you. But it's going to go in one ear and out the other. So try to kind of like breathe. Maybe hold your hands in the Apana Mudra, the two center fingers touching your thumbs, putting it on your thighs. Make sure your 2 feet on the ground. And I'm going to tell you what sex has to do with, having to do with what's going on today on the planet. How interesting. My left hand is almost, it did something really weird. Okay. Everything has to do with ETs. Everything, including and particularly sex. In the Catholic Church, they have classifications of spirits. I cannot believe the pain that's going through my left hand. It is unbelievable. Okay, we'll figure that out later. So the Catholic Church has this classification. The Buddhists do also, and I'm sure everybody else does also. Most people don't know that the Catholic Church has that classification, and it's not hidden. The most distressing, disturbing, and difficult spirits are called incubus and succubus. They have to do with sex. If you got one of those, they come in through the left side of the head, and they go down to your second energy center, which is the sacred sexual energy center. And they go to sleep there until there's an opportunity for them to come up and just completely destroy your life, which they will. Those are the spirits that are the ones that change people the most, the ones that turn people into zombies, that eat people, and da, 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 da. But they come in through sexual issues. So we have an entire society that is spinning around all these sexual issues, because even the trans is a sexual issue, not accepting what they were born in. Then you have the people that are gay, that they legitimately are gay, and I absolutely believe that. But society doesn't totally accept that, and their parents who are older don't. They love their kid, but they really don't. And it creates a lot of shame. Well, shame is the lowest vibration that human beings have. So you have a significant segment of people on the planet that are gay, and a significant segment of them have a lot of shame, which makes them totally vulnerable to these spirits, the incubus and succubus, which are the worst ones that have entered the planet until now. Then you have the people into pornography. If you are into pornography, there's something the matter with you and sex. There's no other explanation. You can roam the universe and come up with another excuse. Well, I really, haven't found a person that's a good partner. No, there's a problem with that. It is a door to darkness, to those spirits. And it's an addiction. Why is it an addiction? Because it has spirits attached to it to make sure that you get addicted. So today, all the news is the most important lawsuits against Trump had to do with sex. The whole thing with this rapper and Epstein all had to do with sex. What do the spirits and the intelligence community do if they want to control someone. Because the intelligence community is just like the negative spirits. They go after people either through sex or through money. Very rarely is it other. In terms of people like in the mind control program, I know they got to me through love of my little sister, my little brother, my children, but then there was a lot of perverted sex. So most of what's in the news revolves around the issue, the theme of sex, and nobody knows any. Nobody knows the definition. You go to a therapist, okay, you've got you're a sex addict. They don't even know the definition of the word. Now, my living master from years ago said to me that I did not have the right to talk about anything unless I first looked it up in the dictionary. So when I was writing a book called Psychic Sexual Secrets, which I'll get out someday when I can get all these bad guys off of me, and I looked up sex and I was like, oh my God, this is huge. How many people know that definition? Only the people that listen to me. So we've got to wrap our heads around what is the real issue. We are losing our spiritual connection. Orgasm is spiritual ecstasy because of the distortion with sex, because we didn't know what the heck it was about, and we put too many restrictions on it. You cannot restrict people in something that's a fundamental need, just like having enough food and enough water. You can't. You're going to get a distortion someplace. But we did it. Society did it in order to establish a society that could be bigger and ongoing. But we didn't do a good job. If we were going to do that, then we should go ahead and go to the Buddhists, who are the only people that I know that can do that, and say, what do you do with the monks? Because we want to restrict everybody in society. They cannot have sex every time they want it unless they have a partner. Okay? And after 25 years, it still has to be that same partner. Give me a break. Please, give me a break. Give me a break. It's obviously not working. So what am I doing here? I'm giving you information. I'm just throwing it all out there, everything that I have collected through decades. I have always been very interested in sex, and not just because I was trafficked sexually as a child and also as an adult. Because you see, the authorities are really no good when it comes to wanting protection from the bad guys, the really big bad guys, because a lot of them are part of the system. There's nobody to call because they're probably part of it if they're a figure of authority. There's nobody to call. And try telling your family and friends if you've kept it secret for years. Oh, no, that can't be possible. So this society is very mixed up. And we're very mixed up with something as basic as sex, which is like needing food and needing water. And we allowed a distortion, the people in this part of the world that follow the biblical version of Jesus Christ, which is not Jesus Christ. And I'm going to stop worrying about people trying to take me down because of these opinions, because you know what? You don't have to be a rocket scientist. And you don't need quotations. All you need to do is common sense. How does society continue if people don't have sex? Do you really think that Jesus Christ was going to be promoting something to where society would basically end? No, no. How did we let ourselves get here? Somebody said this is good, and we're so desperate to be good people and to follow the rules, which means we're totally dominated by male-dominated hierarchy, which is not just males, it can be females, that we basically destroyed people's ability to be able to live a full life. Orgasm is spiritual ecstasy. Look at St. Teresa's biography, look at the statue, and you'll go, oh my God, how did I not see that? How did nobody see that? Yes, I know I'm very bright, and I'm an observant. I try to figure people out. There's a lot of very bright people out there. Why didn't they see that? What is their explanation? They don't have one. They go, oh my God, I never saw that, but you're right. Oh my God. We have to get this figured out because everybody is getting mentally ill because of their relationship with sex. Either because they're being judgmental, they're not having enough, they don't understand it, they don't know the value of it, they're not teaching their children that. We don't need to get this right. We need to start a process of trying to understand what's going on. So all the news was dominated by the trial with Trump that had to do with sex. And then it was Gerstein, sex. And now it's this Diddy guy with sex. The main thing that I see that they're pulling out having to do with Kamala has to do with her using her female whatever to get to the top. They haven't really said much, so I think maybe they don't have that much on her having to do with that, those innuendos. But we need we're reaching the end and we still don't understand something so basic as sex. We don't even know the definition of it, which, by the way, the root definition of words is usually energetic. When I looked up the word intention, I almost fell off my chair. The word intention in the definition means the stretching of the mind towards something. And that is exactly what the mind does. And the person that understands that a lot is Elon Musk. So let me give you a sketch of what happens to the human mind when they have an intention. See that vector? That's an intention vector. And see those green particles? Those are particles of chi that are entering the back of that martial artist because he is so focused on breaking that board. And if I don't find it again, I won't be able to take it off the screen. So I have to find it here. Oh dear. I swear I have a little devil that is making me blind when I need to find something important. Okay. So we need to get the sex thing figured out. So for those of you that are wondering how I have been since Friday, which is when the whole Diddy thing kind of broke, I spent a lot of times crying. And I'll tell you why I'm crying. Because they talk about Justin Bieber and how he tried to get help, how the words in his song are talking about the pain that he was in, and nobody listened. You could see this guy manhandling him, and nobody did anything. Welcome to the club, Justin Bieber. That's the world for you. All full of really nice people who are either dumb as a rock or totally irresponsible emotionally. Socially, they want to be correct. To hell with society. Look where it has brought us. So when I get on X and there's entirely too much about this, I can't get away from the different posts about this issue. If anybody who has been through this and is still fighting against it, because those people that did that to me are still around. I no longer live on their block anymore. Some of them, because there's a ton of them. I mean, this whole thing, who was it that said? I think it was Kennedy. Said, no, they're all dead. No, they're not. Most of them are, I guess. I don't know. But no. And people like me, it doesn't help to know that this is going to be like a piece of chewing gum. You keep pulling it and pulling it. See when it breaks, maybe it'll break. We're not getting any help now. And we're certainly not getting any protection from the bad guys, all of whom are scrambling. The main guy that was my handler, that would love to be my handler again and would love to tell his bosses that he got me under control, is working full time with black magic and with threats to see if he can't get me under his control again so he can have his, I can't say that he can have his job back. I think he's always going to have a job because he's really good at what he does, which is black magic. He's really good. Nobody's going to be firing him anytime soon. But maybe they've told him 1,000 times to get off of my back, and he's not giving up because he doesn't have any reason to, because there's no blankety blank consequences. because nice people are really irresponsible. So I'm going to get to the next subject, and I know I'm taking a long time. Do you know what's the matter with those Karens and those liberals? That if you scratch the surface a little bit, they get like raving maniacs? They are emotionally dishonest. Who did I get that expression from? The dolphins. One of my clients wanted to go visit the dolphins at this aquarium. And I went, sure, let's go. Why not? So we went there and we were walking around the tanks, and the dolphins said, okay, we have a message. And they gave me a message, which is now an article. It's called Emotional Dishonesty. It's on my website. And it says that we are supposed to be emotionally honest. Because if we're not, it basically breaks us. And it does. Because when you're not emotionally honest, I'm not sure their exact words. This was years ago, and I haven't actually read it for years. But when you're not emotionally honest, you're showing something, and then behind that is something different. Well, that means that there's a break in your system. You are not at one with your astral spirit. Like, may the force be with you. That means may your astral spirit be with you, which is your astral emotional body. When you're not emotionally honest, your astral spirit is over here, and here's your smiling face that cannot tolerate anybody getting angry. But the level of anger, that because it ferments when you don't process it, the level of anger is, and that's what you're getting with too many liberals. Their concepts of helping everybody else, of being nice and being good. I get it. I get it. We all want to be just good people. Because we don't feel good, supposedly, because we feel like we got rejected from God, whatever. I don't believe that either, but that's okay. But we don't have to be good. What we have to be is truthful. And when you get other people that are truthful, and they will say an unpleasantry, and they will say something that's not politically correct or is not what we would want ideally, then they're not nice people. No, they're being truthful. The truth of the matter is that and I'm going to say it, you know what? What the hell? What do I have to lose? When Trump started with the whole thing with the immigrants, I am an immigrant twice. Okay? Illegal immigrant twice. I was technically in jail for 2 years when I was from 2 to 4. Came from Europe, born into a program. Why did they give my father papers? Who knows? So I know all about being an immigrant. So and I'm half Cuban, and I identify as Cuban, and my husband was Cuban, and my kids born in this country, but if you ask them, they're Cuban. Okay, there's nothing the matter with that. So when Trump started with the whole thing about the immigrants, everybody got upset. He doesn't like the Mexicans. Doesn't, and he doesn't like my people. What's going on here? He has a very wide lens and long vision, like my control did. My control used to plan things, and if he made an important decision, he taught me this. You have to look ahead. 100 years from now, what is this decision going to do? 50 years, 25 years, 10 years, and 5 years. What is the effect of this decision that you're making? Most people don't think like that. He trained me to think like that, which really means you have to expand your lens. So Trump had an expanded lens, was saying, we can't tolerate this. But those of us that were immigrants, we didn't like that. Well, today, most immigrants here that have been here for a long time say, we cannot have this lack of control. But we couldn't see it when Trump could see it. And he wasn't saying it because he didn't like Mexicans. He was saying it because he could see what was coming. And that's a big problem with visionaries. When you put them in a position of power, in a position where a lot of people can listen to them, unless you're saying nice things, you're going to upset a lot of people. So what can I say other than we have an immigration issue that we're now all holding hands on? This is too much. We need to control it. We need to wrap our heads around the sex thing. Our kids, 2 generations of kids have been destroyed. We actually should wrap our heads around the fact that we are in a process of human evolution that was said wasn't going to be easy. We need to understand what the definition of sex is. We need to understand that we're no longer there. Once there started to be gays, we're no longer there with that division. That line is blurred. But that means we're closer to God. The ascension process, we need to get it that the ultimate ascension process, we have to be complete, and we're not complete unless we've done an awful lot of internal work, such as what the Buddhists do. We're not complete. We still are very much male, female. One people that are more complete but are neurotic and a mess are the people that are born on the cusp of two astrological signs. If they're born like on the 21st or the 22nd of a month, they're what I call cusp babies. I feel so bad for them because their next sign, they're in one sign and a foot in the other sign. The signs are different signs. One is male, one is female. So they're born half male, half female. So they can see everything from two different points of view within their own head. And it's not fun. So if you have a kid or you're married to somebody who's a cusp baby, 21st or 22nd, and I'm the one that came up with this concept, okay? You have somebody that can be very neurotic or very unhappy because they can see both sides. Because when you're a female, you see things from a female point of view. Now you're a male, you know, a male point of view. But if you could see both points of view, it's really hard to move forward on anything. But these are the people that come in, they sacrifice themselves in order to help us, for us to find that maybe there's a middle way. Maybe it's not male, female. And here we go again with the whole thing of we cannot reunite with God unless we are one piece. God separated us, cut us in two, but we came in complete. We want to go back, we have to be complete. And that's the process we're in now. And yes, it's one hell of a mess. So, how am I dealing with the whole sex stuff in the news? Crying a lot. I feel bad for the people. The same way I felt bad when I was in the program and I saw what they did to the other kids. I felt worse for them than I felt for me. Probably a displacement. I'm sure psychologists say she's displacing. They're probably correct, but I really felt worse for them. I couldn't take it. Actually, I'm hard of hearing because I couldn't take the screaming. We actually, in our group, the Mantrista group, we did 2 sessions on YouTube. I wish we had it in English. We laughed our way after the first 10 minutes, and we still did a second session. The people that had problems with tinnitus, sounds in their ears and ringing, and they couldn't hear well, every single person that I used my remote viewing skills that are very good on them to find out the root cause, every single person had parents or people that argued when they were young and they couldn't stand it. So they kind of like blocked their ears and they continued with great hearing or great whatever until decades later. And then it kicked in, which is what happens when you get sick from an organ. The root cause is generally decades earlier. So anyway, ending it on a funny note, if you got problems with hearings or you got tinnitus, chances are there was a lot of screaming going on or fighting when you were a child. In my case, there were a lot of screaming kids. They would actually do it on purpose. They would actually torture my brother, who was the love of my life when he was born. They would torture him so that I could hear the screams. And if they wanted something, well, what about your brother? Well, what is it that you do want? Okay, so let's try and hold hands on this whole sex trafficking thing, because the people that are doing it are also, they've been invaded by really bad spirits, which doesn't mean that they don't get any type of punishment. It means that we look at that and go, that's an awful lot of them. What's the matter with us as a society? What do we need to take care of so that this doesn't continue? Okay, so then we are going to do 10 minutes of a mantra, and not sure which, but give me a second and we will get it figured out. Well, I don't have any of them here. You know what? We're all exhausted. So let's do that one. Even though I'm exhausted, I love and accept myself. You know what? People like me, we're exhausted. We don't know when you guys are going to get your act together, okay? You guys are going to get your act together and do something about this so that the bad guys can finally sit down and stop bothering those of us. We're getting victimized still because you have not done enough for them to stop. Or if you say you're going to kill them, like Trump is saying, they're going to execute them. That's even worse for people like us. So be a little bit more thoughtful or make it happen quick. Don't keep extending this. It's really not fair. Okay. So even though I'm exhausted, I love and accept myself. Let me get some music. We'll do 5 or 6 minutes because I certainly did a lot of talking. Exhausted. We're going to want to go with the root chakra, power. So let's do this for 5 minutes. Problem? No, you can't hear it? Okay, that one is not working for some reason. So let me go back. And let's choose another one. Oh, this is the one for sex. Okay. I actually don't know what to do about this. Oh, you can hear it, but I can't hear it. Okay. So 5 minutes of the mantra. And this is the mantra for the second sexual chakra. Okay? Okay, we finished. Okay, then we will see you tomorrow. And let's move along, having to do with looking at why everything in the news is about sex, and it's not just about one person. Almost everything rolls back to that theme, and we haven't figured it out. We don't even know the definition.